All right, so we're diving into the Xero Shoes 360 today.
Yeah,
We're calling this a deep dive because we really want to go beyond just the basic review that's up on beartread.com.
right.
But of course, we're still going to cover the most important takeaways from that article.
Of
We
course.
know you guys have probably already checked that out. So.
Yeah, you guys are experts. You know all about this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we're not going to treat you like you're just learning about barefoot shoes for the first time.
Right.
But we're going to see if this shoe, the 360, lives up to the hype, you know?
Yeah, it's marketed as a cross trainer, but we're seeing it pop up kind of in some interesting places like pickleball courts and even parkour gyms.
Yeah, that's what caught my eye too. It's like, is this shoe really that versatile, or are we all getting a little ahead of ourselves?
Right. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what we want to explore. Is it trying to be too many things to too many people, or is it truly a do-it-all kind of shoe?
Right. It's like that jack of all trades, master of none kind of question.
Yeah.
So we're seeing like former college basketball players using them on the court, and parkour enthusiasts are raving about the grip.
I even saw some people saying they're ditching their orthotics because the 360s are like actually helping with their foot pain.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it really that good, or is this just like a placebo effect? You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe some people are just so excited to have a new barefoot shoe that they're like willing to overlook some flaws.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, we see that with a lot of new releases in the barefoot world.
Yeah, for sure.
There's always that initial excitement that maybe clouds the judgment a bit.
Yeah, so we're going to try to be as objective as possible and really break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of this shoe.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the design. I mean, the first thing that jumps out at me is the breathable mesh upper.
Yeah, that's a nice touch, especially for workouts. You want to keep those feet cool and dry.
Right. But I've also seen some concerns about the durability of that mesh,
Yeah.
especially for activities that involve a lot of abrasion.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Breathable and durable don't always go hand in hand.
Right. It's like you got to pick your poison.
Exactly.
So what about those Huarache-inspired tension straps?
Yeah.
I mean, those are pretty unique for a cross-training shoe.
They are, and they seem to be getting a lot of praise for the lateral stability they provide.
Yeah. Beartread mentioned that they're crucial for those quick side-to-side movements, especially in sports like pickleball and tennis.
Right, and even for weightlifting, having that extra stability in the midfoot can make a big difference.
Now let's talk about the sole, because that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, we've got that 7mm Feel True rubber outsole, which is kind of like a signature Xero feature.
Right. It's that balance of protection and ground feel that they're known for.
But Beartread mentioned a reworked sole on the 360. I'm curious to know what they changed.
Me too. I mean, they didn't go into a ton of detail in the review.
Yeah, it looks like they tweaked the tread pattern and maybe the rubber compound itself, possibly, to improve the grip and the durability.
Well, it makes sense if they're marketing this shoe for more demanding activities, then the sole needs to be up to the task.
Exactly.
And of course, we got to mention the Zero Drop platform. It's kind of like a non-negotiable in the barefoot world, right?
Yeah, it encourages that natural foot strike, which is so important for proper biomechanics.
And I appreciate that they included a removable insole.
Right.
It gives you that option to customize the level of cushioning.
It's a smart move. Caters to a wider range of preferences.
Right. Because some people want that ultra minimalist feel.
Yeah,
While others might need a little extra support, especially if they're new to barefoot shoes.
absolutely.
So speaking of fit, Xero recommends ordering your usual size, but I'm seeing a lot of users saying they had to go up half a size, especially if they have wider feet.
Yeah, that's a bit of a recurring theme with Xero, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Their sizing can be a little inconsistent.
Right. It's like you never know quite what you're going to get.
Mm.
And even though the 360 is supposed to have a wide toe box, it seems like it might not be wide enough for everyone.
Yeah, I've seen a few complaints about that in the reviews.
Okay, so let's move on to performance, starting with lifting, because a lot of people are using this shoe for weightlifting.
Yeah, and the feedback seems to be really positive.
Yeah, they're praising the stability and the ground feel, which makes sense. You want that solid connection to the floor when you're moving heavy weight.
Absolutely. That direct contact enhances your proprioception, allowing you to really feel those subtle shifts in weight distribution during your lifts.
Right, so it's not just about feeling the ground, it's about having that awareness of where your body is in space,
Exactly.
and that translates to better stability and more efficient power transfer.
Right, and with the removable insole, you can really fine-tune that experience to your liking.
Now, what about agility, plyometrics, hit workouts?
Well, Beartread mentioned that the reworked sole and the lateral support make the 360 more responsive than previous Xero models.
So that's got to be a good sign for those who incorporate a lot of quick multi-directional movements into their workouts.
Yeah, it seems like they've really focused on enhancing the performance for those types of activities.
But what about running? I mean, I know this shoe isn't specifically designed for running, but some people are curious about how it performs for shorter distances.
Right, it's kind of a hybrid in that regard.
Yeah,
It might be adequate for short runs, but it's not ideal for serious runners or longer distances.
right, because that 7 millimeter sole does provide more cushioning than a dedicated minimalist running shoe.
Yeah, and the cross-training features add a bit of weight that you don't really want if you're logging serious miles.
Okay, so maybe not a marathon shoe,
Right.
but potentially suitable for those shorter runs that are part of like a larger workout routine.
Exactly.
Now, this one surprised me. I'm seeing a lot of people praising the 360 for everyday wear.
Yeah.
Who knew a cross trainer could be so stylish and comfortable?
It's a testament to the overall design, The breathable mesh upper keeps your feet cool, and the wide toe box allows for natural movement.
So it seems like Xero has managed to create a shoe that's both functional and fashionable.
They have.
All right, let's talk about something that's sparking a lot of debate, the DIY factor.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, removing the insole for a more minimalist feel that's a given.
Of course.
But some people are getting really creative in swapping in midsoles from other shoes.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, apparently Kobe basketball midsoles are a popular choice.
Interesting.
So is this barefoot heresy, or are we witnessing some next-level innovation?
I think it's a fascinating development. It highlights the adaptability of the 360's platform and the desire for customization within the barefoot community.
Right. People want to fine-tune their footwear to their exact needs and preferences.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, it does make you wonder if these modifications are being made to compensate for potential limitations in the 360's design.
That's a good point. If people are adding significant support or cushioning, maybe Xero needs to reconsider how those features are integrated into the shoe itself.
Right. It's almost like we're seeing a hybrid approach to barefoot footwear emerging,
Yeah.
where people are blending the best of both worlds' minimalist principles with conventional shoe features.
It's an interesting trend for sure.
And that leads us perfectly into the bigger conversation surrounding Xero shoes as a company.
Right.
There's this growing concern that they're moving away from their barefoot roots with thicker soles and a more mainstream aesthetic in their newer models.
Yeah.
So are they compromising their core values to
Ah.
appeal to a wider audience, or is this just a natural evolution of the barefoot movement?
It's a complex issue, and there are strong opinions on both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Some people believe that any deviation from the most minimalist design is like a betrayal of the movement's principles.
Right.
Others see it as a necessary step to make barefoot technology more accessible to those who aren't ready for the most extreme minimalist experience.
Yeah, because not everyone can just jump into a zero-drop shoe with a 4 millimeter sole and be totally fine.
Exactly.
You got to ease into it.
And the 360 seems to be right in the middle of this debate, wouldn't you say?
I think so. It's a shoe that embodies both the innovation and the potential compromise that Xero is navigating right now.
Right. It's pushing the boundaries of what we consider a barefoot shoe, and that's generating both excitement and skepticism within the barefoot community.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah.
So let's delve deeper into some of the specific use cases and user experiences that we're seeing with the 360.
Okay. Sounds good.
Starting with basketball, which has sparked some of the most heated discussions.
Oh, yeah.
It's a controversial choice for sure,
Yeah.
but there's a lot to unpack there.
Definitely basketball is such a demanding sport, and using a minimalist shoe like the 360 on the court raises a lot of questions about performance, durability, and safety.
Right. So let's examine how the 360 is holding up in this unexpected arena.
Let's do it. So we've got barefoot enthusiasts out there playing basketball in Xero 360s.
I know, it's crazy.
It's definitely like a bold move.
Yeah.
And it's sparking a lot of conversation, about what a barefoot shoe can actually handle.
Right, because it seems kind of counterintuitive. We're so used
Yeah.
to seeing those high-top basketball shoes with all the cushioning and ankle support.
Well, the bells and whistles.
Exactly. So what are the arguments for using a minimalist shoe like the 360 on the court?
Well, the biggest one that I see people bringing up is proprioception.
Proprioception.
Yeah, your body's awareness of where it is in space.
Right, right.
And with a minimalist shoe like the 360, you're closer to the ground. You get more sensory feedback from the court surface.
Okay, I see.
And that can lead to better balance, agility, responsiveness.
So you're essentially enhancing your natural sensory abilities
Exactly.
by minimizing the barrier between your feet and the court.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. But basketball is such a high-impact sport.
It is.
Can a shoe with a 7 millimeter sole really provide enough protection for those hard landings?
That's the million-dollar question. Right. And there's no easy answer. The 360, it does offer some impact protection, but it's significantly less than what you'd find in a traditional basketball shoe.
Of course.
So players need to be way more mindful of their landing mechanics, focusing on a softer, more controlled foot strike to reduce that stress on their joints.
So it's not just a matter of switching shoes.
No,
It's like a whole different approach to movement and impact absorption.
it really is a whole different way of moving.
Wow.
Yeah, players who are used to those heavily cushioned shoes, they might need a significant adjustment period to adapt to playing in 360s.
Right.
It's a gradual process, building up that foot and ankle strength, refining their landing technique.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can't expect your body to transition overnight
No.
from maximum cushioning to minimal cushioning without some kind of adaptation.
Right.
So let's talk about lateral support, because basketball involves a lot of side-to-side movement,
Tons.
and ankle injuries are obviously a big concern.
Huge concern.
So how does the 360 fare in that regard?
Well, that's another area where the 360's minimalist design might pose some challenges, while those Huarache straps do provide some lateral stability.
Right.
They don't offer the same level of ankle lockdown as a high-top basketball shoe would.
So players who are prone to ankle rolls,
Yeah.
or who really rely on that locked-in feeling for aggressive cuts and drives, might want to proceed with caution.
I would agree with that statement.
But I remember Bear Tread mentioned some interesting DIY modifications.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, some players are inserting drop-in midsoles from other shoes, like Kobe basketball shoes,
Wow.
to increase the cushioning and support.
That's pretty ingenious.
Right.
It really speaks to the resourcefulness of the barefoot community, always finding ways to customize their footwear to meet their specific needs.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It is.
But it does make you wonder if these modifications are addressing like a design gap in the 360.
That's a good question.
Maybe Xero should consider integrating more robust lateral support features in future iterations.
It's possible.
It's almost like the barefoot community is kind of pushing the boundaries of what the 360 can do.
Yeah,
And in the process, they're revealing potential areas for improvement.
I like that.
So let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about another demanding activity where the 360 is making a surprising appearance: parkour and obstacle course racing.
Now that is an interesting use case.
Right.
Parkour is so incredibly demanding on footwear. You need grip flexibility and above all durability.
And that's where the 360's breathable mesh upper might be its Achilles heel.
You think?
I mean, all that jumping and climbing and scraping against walls, it can't be good for the mesh.
Yeah, scaling walls and jumping rooftops might not be the best idea in these shoes.
Maybe not.
I mean, it depends on how serious you are about parkour.
Right.
For casual practitioners, the 360 might hold up fine.
Right.
But if you're really pushing the limits, that mesh upper is likely to show some wear and tear pretty quickly.
So durability is a major concern then.
It is.
That's a bit of a shame because the rest of the shoe seems well suited for parkour. The grip, the flexibility, the ground feel.
It does have a lot of potential.
Yeah, it does.
It's too bad about that mesh upper.
Well, I did read that some parkour enthusiasts are going to great lengths to reinforce the upper.
Really?
Yeah, they're using things like shoe goo and patches to increase the durability.
Wow, that's dedication.
Right. It's like they're not going to let a little thing like a fragile mesh upper stop them from doing parkour in their 360s.
That's awesome.
It is kind of cool.
It is.
It'd be great if Xero considered extending those rubber inlays that they've incorporated into the toe box
Yeah.
to other high wear areas.
Like around the sides and the heel.
Exactly. That could significantly enhance the 360's lifespan for activities like parkour without compromising breathability.
I think that's a great suggestion.
So it sounds like there's like a dedicated subculture of barefoot enthusiasts who are hacking their 360s
Uh-huh.
to withstand the rigors of parkour.
Yeah, they're really putting them to the test.
It's almost like an extreme test of the shoe's adaptability.
I love it.
But let's not forget about those who are using the 360 for its intended purpose.
Right.
Cross-training and everyday wear, is it living up to the hype in those areas?
Absolutely. The 360, it excels as a versatile, comfortable shoe for a wide range of activities. People are using it for everything from weightlifting and HIIT workouts to walking the dog and running errands.
And I've heard from a lot of people who are ditching their orthotics and experiencing relief from foot pain after switching to the 360s.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing how a minimalist shoe can have such a profound impact on foot health.
It is the 360's wide toe box allows for natural foot splay, which helps to strengthen foot muscles and improve overall foot function. And the Xero drop platform promotes a more natural gait, reducing stress on joints.
So say the 360 is succeeding and its mission to bring barefoot technology to a wider audience.
It seems like it.
It's not just for hardcore minimalists anymore. It's a shoe that, like, anyone can benefit from.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But let's be realistic. Not everyone is ready to jump into a completely minimalist shoe right away.
Of course not.
There's a transition period, an adaptation process that can be challenging.
It can be.
So what advice would you give to someone who's considering making the switch to the 360s?
I would say a gradual adaptation is key. Don't go from wearing heavily cushioned shoes to wearing the 360s all day, every day.
Okay.
Start with short periods of wear around the house and then gradually increase the duration and intensity as your feet and ankles get stronger.
And listen to your body.
Right. Yes, always listen to your body.
Pain is not gain when it comes to barefoot shoes.
No, it's not.
If it hurts, stop.
Exactly.
Speaking of insoles, the 360 comes with a removable one,
It does.
which is a nice touch. Gives users that extra level of customization.
For sure.
So what are some of the ways people are experimenting with insoles and other modifications?
Well, we're seeing a lot of experimentations. Some people prefer the ultra-minimalist approach and ditch the insole entirely. For maximum ground feel, others are using aftermarket insoles for added cushioning or arch support. And then there's that fascinating trend of swapping in midsoles from other shoes, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
It's almost like they're creating their own hybrid shoes.
It's like a choose-your-own-adventure approach to footwear.
I like that.
But it does raise a question about the philosophy of barefoot shoes. Are these modifications a valid expression of personal preference, or are they a step away from the core principles of minimalist footwear?
It's a complex issue. There's no easy answer. On one hand, it's great to see people taking ownership of their footwear and customizing it to their individual needs.
Right.
But on the other hand, you have to wonder if those modifications are being made to compensate for design limitations in the 360.
Yeah.
If people feel the need to add significant support or cushioning, maybe Xero should revisit their design and integrate those features in a more seamless way.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. And it brings us back to that larger debate about Xero's direction as a company. Are they staying true to their barefoot roots, or are they straying from the path in pursuit of mainstream appeal?
Right.
It seems like the 360 is caught in the crossfire of that conversation.
Yeah, the 360 is a shoe that embodies both the innovation and the potential compromise that Xero is navigating right now. It's a bold experiment that's pushing the boundaries of what we consider a barefoot shoe, and that's generating both excitement and skepticism within the barefoot community. It's a fascinating time to be following the evolution of minimalist footwear. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's one more topic I want to delve into the 360 as a basketball shoe.
Okay.
It's a use case that's raising eyebrows and sparking some heated discussions.
Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, it's one thing to wear minimalist shoes for casual activities or even cross-training, but basketball is a whole different beast.
Oh, yeah.
The demands on footwear are immense. So how is the 360 holding up on the court? What are the benefits? What are the risks? Let's break it down. So the Xero Shoes 360 on the basketball court. Some people are calling it revolutionary. Others are calling it reckless. Where do you stand?
I think it's fascinating, but we got to be careful. Approach it with some caution. The 360 has potential for basketball players, but there are some risks too.
Let's start with the potential. We've talked about proprioception, that enhanced sense of body awareness from being closer to the ground.
Yeah.
How does that play out on the court?
Imagine feeling the surface with more sensitivity, sensing those changes in traction and balance. That's what that thin, flexible sole allows. It's like amplifying your natural feedback, quicker reactions, more precise movements, better agility.
So sharpening reflexes, fine-tuning footwork. But we can't ignore the big question. Impact protection. Basketball's high impact? Can a 7mm sole really handle it?
That's the biggest worry, and it's legitimate. The 360 sacrifices some protection compared to those big basketball shoes. Players need to know this and change how they play, landing softly, spreading impact, building strength gradually. It's crucial.
So transitioning to the 360 means a whole new mindset and training. You can't just put them on and expect your body to be okay.
Right. It's retraining your body to move better, absorb impact more efficiently. For some, it's too much change, but for others, it could mean better performance and fewer injuries. It's all individual.
Let's talk lateral support.
Yeah.
Quick cuts, pivots, changes of direction, all stress the ankles. Can the 360 handle that?
This is where it gets tricky. The Horaki straps help, but they're not the same as a high-top players who need that extra stability, especially if they've had ankle problems before, might find the 360 isn't enough.
So trade-offs, you gain proprioception and agility, but lose some protection and ankle support.
Exactly. Weighing pros and cons, what matters most for your style, and how much risk you're okay with. It's interesting how some players are modding the 360s with drop-in midsoles and stuff.
like a grassroots barefoot movement, pushing the limits. But should Xero be doing this in the shoes design? Maybe future 360s will have better lateral support.
It's possible the 360 is driving innovation from the brand and the community. It's exciting to see barefoot shoes evolve.
This deep dive's been a journey. We explore the Xero Shoes 360, inside and out, from design and performance to new ways of using it and what it means for barefoot running as a whole.
We saw how this shoe challenges what we thought we knew about footwear, blurring the lines between minimalist and performance. It shows there's no one right shoe. It's about what works for your needs, your activities, your values.
And that's what we want you to do. Think, experiment, and keep those feet moving. Until next time, keep exploring and let us know what you find.
See you on the next deep dive.